Hey, the developers at Arrowhead have hidden an image on the AF-02 helmet that reflects a character of some sort. The community manager has discussed future plans for the team, and there's a lot more I'll be covering in today's video. Support the channel by hitting the like button and subscribe with notifications on if you haven't already. Alright, if you haven't noticed yet, there's a strange image reflected on the newest Warbond helmet, and it's quite interesting. I'd first like to give credit to Mammoth Hair 4789 for discovering this hidden secret, or so I think it is. That being said, what you'll want to do is equip the helmet from the chemical agent Warbond, like so. After this, you'll want to locate the right side of the ship where this lady can be found, and you should notice right away that there's a blue image with a person in the background and some writing on the left side. Now, who could this possibly be? I couldn't tell you, but it is a mysterious secret that the Arrowhead developers left in the game. However, the other question is, what's the purpose of this? To be fair, there's a good chance that at one point the right side of the ship had a screen just like the other side, and the Arrowhead team didn't update the reflection accordingly. My proof on this is that I went ahead and checked around the ship. Most of the screens didn't show up on the helmet visor, so there's a strong possibility that the reflection hasn't been updated, which could be the case. I'd like to know what you all think about this mysterious image by posting a comment below and let me know what you think. On a different note, the Steam reviews for Helldivers 2 have returned to mostly positive, and the community is excited about the game again. It's quite interesting to see how the game's reception has fluctuated down, then back up, then down again, and finally we're back to mostly positive once more. The only thing Arrowhead really needs to do now is make sure that they do not make any changes that would, cause these reviews to go south again. I don't think they're planning on messing up again, considering the last patch has gone so well for them. It would be a bad decision to nerf any fan favorite weapons at this point, because I'd say a good portion of the player base are happy with the recent update. Nonetheless, it's exciting to see the team back at it again and ready to give us some actual content. For instance, the battle station might be coming soon to us all. That is if we are successful with the latest major order. Let's now talk about the developers at Arrowhead, because the morale has improved and the Arrowhead team is starting to feel better. The community manager addressed a question on the Helldivers 2 Discord about how the team is feeling now. The community manager wrote back and said, much better. A lot of colleagues have felt sad or frustrated by either rushing things or not being able to cater to player-based feedback well enough, which is of course understandable. Personally, but I think a lot of AH colleagues would agree, it feels as if we fought our way back and have been given a rare opportunity to continue doing great stuff and develop the game from where we are now, not where we were mid-August. Is there still crunch-like stuff going on in the context of things we've committed to? Sure, we're in a much better place now game-wise though, and long-term I hope the things we're doing and work we put in now will help us, the game and all of its players. Yeah, to say the least, the game was definitely in a bad spot, yet they've turned the whole entire situation around for the better, and things are starting to look up for both the Arrowhead team and the community based off of the recent update and what the community manager has said in his response. One thing I'm not entirely clear on is what he's referring to when he mentioned crunch. I'm not sure if that's crunch time, meaning the developers are now working overtime to meet a deadline. If that's the case, it does worry me a bit for the future content, because when you're exhausted and coding extensively, you're eventually going to make a mistake, right? At least that's how I think, because I know when I'm tired, I'll make mistakes and mess up even when I think I'm okay, but in reality, I'm not. So I wonder if that'll be a problem for the next patch. But at the same time, if that is the case, I don't think it's an issue for the team, because the recent patch has been incredible so far. And I haven't noticed any game-breaking bugs except for the occasional crash, but that's it. Speaking of game-breaking bugs, there is one specific mission that has been quite buggy recently, to the extent that it's really messing up the latest major order. If you're unaware, the Eradicate mission has been glitchy lately. It's been all jacked up since the last two updates. So what's happening with it? There's a problem completing the mission because enemies aren't spawning properly, which is required to complete it because you do have to destroy a certain number of automatons. As I've mentioned, they're not spawning correctly. I've talked about this, I believe, in another video, but besides that, it's also on the known issue list on Arrowhead's Zendesk site. As you can see right here, the support team member wrote, sometimes not enough enemies spawn to complete Eradicate missions. It's definitely annoying to encounter this specific bug, and hopefully the Arrowhead developers will release a hotfix at some point. Unfortunately, even if they do release one next week, it doesn't help, because the fact remains that the current major order will end in about 3 days, maybe 2 by the time you're watching this. Also, there's another bug with the nursery mission, specifically with the drill. Some have had it not appear, some have had it pop up in the air. Yeah, there might be another bug with it, but as far as I know, those are the 2 I'm aware of at the current moment. Who knows how high these rank on the priority list, yet it would be nice to see these 2 missions resolved as soon as possible. Anyway, the community manager responded again to the same player, but this time it's about the direction of the game. Do they have any future plans to reveal something exciting, similar to how they did with the Meridia event? The community manager Twinbeard said this in response. I agreed that we would have liked to explore the narrative parts more. We are still looking for our second game master, and we are expanding our narrative team, so we're still playing catch up a bit there. I hope that 6 or 9 months from now, we can look back on several memorable story-driven missions and events having unfolded in the game universe. Yeah, it would be nice to see more in-game events like the Meridia Black Hole. I'd like to see an event where we travel back to Super Earth to celebrate, maybe even allowing us to walk around a small section of the map or city, similar to how the tutorial area is set up, where you can only go so far. I'd also like to see a raid mission where we complete a major order or 2 to prepare for the raid. And then we can go in guns blazing at some huge automaton factory where there's a special boss. That's something I'd like to see, and no, I'm not talking about raids where you have the encounters and a 6-man team similar to Destiny 2. I'm just talking about one large mission that has us all go to a specific part of the map, and we have to force our way inside of the point of interest in order to get to the automaton boss. Okay, that aside, how about we go over a few more buffs that haven't been announced? I'm going to do what I did in the last Helldivers 2 video and show a comparison between the stats before and after the latest patch. The stats you're about to see come straight from Helldivers.io, and I recommend you check that site out. It's quite helpful because they update the weapons and stratagem stats every time a patch is released, and they get this information from the in-game files. Nonetheless, you get the point, so what we'll do is check out the rail cannon first. Now, before anyone says anything, I know that the Arrowhead team has informed us all already that the rail cannon has received a damage buff, but what they didn't include was the explosion damage. With that said, the damage and durability damage used to be 2,000 and the explosion damage was originally 500, yet they've increased that to 1,000 and the damage to 7,500, so it's a lot beefier than I had originally imagined, but I like it a lot. Not only that, they've also buffed the orbital walking barrage because both the damage and durable damage was 450, and it's now been boosted up to 3,500 damage with the same armor penetration as it was prior. If we're talking about AP, then we have to bring up the Eagle airstrike because the armor penetration in the last patch had an AP 5550, and now it's an AP 7770 with the 1,500 damage increase because it was set at 500 originally. The AP is way better now than it's ever been before because that's enough armor penetration to mess up just about every enemy type, right? Maybe except for a factory strider because that's probably out of the conversation. Now there is one buff I've brought up in one of my previous videos, but I did forget to mention that the Eagle Strafing run can actually one-tap tanks and destroy fabricators easily. I'll go ahead and showcase that right now. All you have to do is point it in the direction of the fabricator or the tank and just let the Strafing run do all the work. It's absolutely crazy and it works. You can't go wrong with this stratagem. I mean, literally, if you haven't used it recently, try it out now and you might be surprised by it. What I'd like to do now is talk about a spiky plant that can be found in certain biomes. I've talked about this in the past and it's still a problem. If you walk right next to a plant like this while you're still inside your mech, sadly it only takes 3 hits and your mech is done for. The plant is way overpowered and it's crazy that it can still break down a mech even after a few hits. Maybe at some point the developers will fix this issue, but it's probably not that big of a deal for them considering the plant is still powerful. Alright, continuing along, Baskinator has just posted this right here, which is a feedback of some sort, and she wrote, "With your feedback, we have adapted the scales so you can better represent your opinions to us. We appreciate everyone's willingness to provide feedback and apologize if you were unable to take part in the survey. As we personally analyze all the feedback, we currently have a cap on response, so we can manage the feedback effectively. That said, we just want to reassure you that these feedback surveys will be regular occurrence, and we want to provide as many of you the opportunity to have your voices heard as possible. We will remove the link once we have received enough responses." What I'll do is leave the link to this feedback form in the description. You know, the same exact one that Baskinator has notified everyone about. But right here, this is the first page, and then if you click the blue arrow, it's going to bring you to a question like this. How satisfied are you with your recent experience of Helldivers 2? And you can click whichever you want. Then whatever your choice is, you'll click the blue link, and then you'll be taken to another page, and then you just continue on until you're done. Next up, let's talk about voice lines, because I know a lot of you are curious about this, as well as one member on the Helldivers 2 Discord. Basically, this member wanted to know if they have more plans to add more voice lines, and apparently that is the case. They definitely do plan on doing this at some point. So if you check out this post right here, this is what Twinbeard responded with. There will be more voice lines for HD2 going forward in general. In what regard and for exactly what, I can't say. Even if I know some of it as to the default character voice lines, I don't know, really. Yeah, as of right now, they do have plans to add more voice lines. That's probably for the Illuminate and maybe some other things that are going to come along eventually. Maybe even for some of the characters on the Destroyer. Maybe we're going to receive another character that pops up and is able to talk to us. But anyways, as of right now, they do not have any plans to add more voice lines to the actual character, which for some of you, that might suck. But to be fair, it is what it is, right? I don't think it's a big deal, but for some of you, it might be. Last but not least, I do want to bring this up because I know a lot of you have questioned this. Will the developers ever bring any extra stats to, you know, the armory? Apparently, as of right now, there's no word on this. I did ask Twinbeard, and shout out to him for answering my question. But anyways, you can see right here, this is what he wrote. I do not. I know comparisons between the interface info on weapons for HD and HD2 have been mentioned by players several times, and that Pillin have commented on them. But I haven't heard anything of us possibly implementing more weapon stats in the near future. So there you go. If you were wondering if they're ever going to add any type of weapon stats, as of right now, there's no word on it. Maybe eventually down the road they'll consider it, but as of right now, there's nothing going on with it. I personally enjoy looking at stats quite a lot. I like comparing different weapons and seeing what exactly is going on. Now, what I would like to see is maybe a way for them to show us the explosion radius, show us, you know, how strong it is, durable damage-wise, penetration-wise, all these other type of stats. That is what I would like to see. But as of right now, again, they do not have plans to implement that anytime soon, or maybe never. With that said, this is your Helldivers 2 news. We're now going to check out the top 3 comments from the previous video. If you guys haven't already, comment down below and you might just be featured. The first comment is by I3670. You want to know why we're building a space station on Gallivare? Because Johan Pillestead is from the Swedish town Gallivare, if I am pronouncing that right. Anyways, the second comment is by Quentin WR8226. Those are not shriekers, but flying birds you can see in the sky of Gallivare. And last but not least, we have Water 754. Those aren't shriekers, they're birds that fly on the jungle biome, and you can interact with them. Or anything would have been fun, though. You can even see them at 417. And you guys are not wrong. You guys are not wrong at all, okay? I made a mistake. My eyesight is probably, or it is, terrible. It truly is. But there you go. Those are the top 3 comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.